So if we look at this problem and you don't have a power couple, we're going to do law of cosines. You have to have one of two things to do law of cosines. You need to know all three sides. Looking at that triangle, do we know all three sides? Nope. Then what we do know here then is side angle side. Okay, remember on Friday we talked about knowing a corner. So I know these three things. I know that corner right there. That is a side angle side triangle. If we know a corner, we can use those three things together to Street Fighter across and solve for the other thing. Solve for C. Use those three, boom, solve across the other one. Everybody good to there? No. Just because I drew it like that doesn't mean it has to be equilateral. If all the angles were 60, you're correct. So we are doing law of sines, or law of cosines. We're using these formulas. We're using this corner to solve for C. So technically I'm using that bottom formula up there. C squared equals A squared plus B squared minus 2 times A times B times cosine of 60. Or in this case of gamma. That's just writing down the formula. Nothing we learned on Friday is really math intense. All it is calculator. You got to do a lot of calculator stuff, typing stuff in. So my A is 6 squared plus 4 squared times cosine of 60. All I got to do is take that thing and type it into my calculator. You just need to know how to push buttons. So 6 squared plus 4 squared minus 2 times 6 times 4 times cosine of 60, making sure your calculator's in degrees. I hit enter. I get that thing right there, 28. Is 28 my answer to this problem? No. That's what C squared is equal to. So if I want to know what just C is, I need to take the square root of 28 to get a decimal. So I'm going second square root. 28 is easy to type in, so you can type in 28. I'm going to hit second and the negative key. Okay, second negative gets me that A and S, the previous answer. I don't even have to type anything in. My answer is 5.29. That's a side length. Yep, I know what C is. C is 5.29. So on Friday we talked about this. Now that we've solved that, technically you have a power couple. I've got 5.29 across from 60, but we don't want to do that because technically you could also still have two triangles if you do that. And so we'd have to double check for a second triangle, not something we want to do. So instead, as soon as you start doing law of cosines, you want to continue doing law of cosines. Now that I've used that to solve for that side there, I now know all three sides. So if I know all three sides, I can use the other formula that I've got there to solve for something else. So I've got two angles left, either they're alpha or beta. Elsa, which one do you want to solve for? Sure, doesn't matter. She can solve for alpha because we know all three sides. If you know all three sides, you can solve for any angle you want. So we are using this top formula here. We know all three sides. We're going to solve for alpha. So cosine of alpha is going to be equal to A squared. So that's 6 squared minus B squared, which is 4 squared, minus 5.29 squared, all over negative 2 times B, so times 4, times C, which is 5.29. A lot of kids just have an issue with this because they don't put stuff in correctly. Make sure, a quick double check is whatever two numbers go second here are the two numbers that are on bottom of the fraction. All we need to do is type that thing in. A reminder that if you don't type this in as a fraction, you have to put parentheses around the top and the bottom. Okay, if you don't type it in as a fraction, you want to do that instead. We're going to type this in as a fraction because it's easier to see. So reminder how to use a fraction on your calculator. You hit the alpha button, the green button right here, and then we hit the y equals button, the F1 button up here in the top corner. Okay, right there. That's the y equals button. There's the alpha button. So alpha F1, n over d is numerator over denominator. That's the one I want. It gives me a fraction. So now I can just type that thing in without having to put parentheses or anything else. So 6 squared minus 4 squared minus 5.29 squared. On bottom, it's negative 2 times 4 times 5.29. There's my whole setup. You hit enter. I get that. Does that look like an angle? No, because it's not. What that is right there is cosine of alpha. What do I need to do with that answer still to get alpha by itself? Inverse a cosine. So I'm going to go second cosine, second answer. Type it in, hit enter. Alpha is 79.1 degrees. What do I still need to solve for in this triangle? Beta. What am I going to do to find beta, though? 180 minus 60 minus 79.1 tells me what beta is. 40.9. Thank you. Questions on what we did there? Inverse cosine. So second cosine, and then hit second and the negative button. It just types in that decimal for me. It types in that point. If you really want to, you don't have to do that. You could just type in 0.18866, but you have to go quite a few decimals in order to get the right answer. It's better just to use the second negative button. Okay? That's it. So